Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. As you can most likely tell, we are going to be looking at something that isn't a tank today. We are going to be looking at my Brazilian 1908 model Mauser rifle. But before we get into that, I just want to do a quick little bit of announcements regarding future episodes in this little bit of a side series. If you aren't interested in any of that, you can just skip right to the bit of history and then the little bit of a lesson I want to share with you guys about me getting this particular rifle. But to start with, I just want to have that little bit of an announcement, so skip it if you don't care, or stay tuned if you do. So for those of you who did not skip, this series is going to be a little different than my primary series because this is going to be more of a, like I said, a side series, and because of that, I'm not going to be posting these future episodes for free on YouTube. If you want to watch them on YouTube, you can do that by being a YouTube member, but I'm not going to charge anyone a penny if they don't want to spend it on these episodes. You can simply go to my account over on Odyssey, which there is a link in the description to that, and you can watch them there for free. The only reason you could watch them here separately is if you want to watch them in slightly higher quality. But I think Odyssey's been working on upping theirs, so honestly, if you want to watch it for free, just go watch it there. You may be thinking I'm doing this purely out of greed. Oh, he just wants people to pay him to watch the... No, it's none of that. I just don't want to risk my channel's monetization over a couple videos that I'm going to be making on the fairly small but hopefully growing collection of firearms that I have. It's just not worth it to me to risk having any issues, because if you've watched anything with firearms on YouTube, you know that YouTube is very iffy about their rules regarding that, and it's just not worth it for me. If you think that's me being greedy, then that's just up to you, I guess. But that's about it for that spiel. So if you are already a member, you'll be able to watch all of these in full quality on YouTube, and if you want to become a member to watch them, you can do that using the join button. And if you don't, you can watch them for free over on Odyssey. So that's about all I have for this. So now let's get into a little bit of history and then the lesson that I was mentioning about this particular rifle. So what we are looking at here is a Modelo 1908 Mauser rifle. These were made in Germany for Brazil. I don't know exactly the date. I'm assuming it would start in 1908 is when they would make them and send them to Brazil. I don't know the exact date though. The details have been a little tricky to find. If you have more information, please do drop it in the comments, because I plan to make a video documenting the whole history of the Brazilian firearms, from their early ones to the ones that they have now, because I think it's a very interesting story that no one's talked about. So any details you have, drop them down below. If I make mistakes, feel free to correct me. So these rifles replaced the 1894 Mausers, which were the previous service rifle of Brazil, and were one of the first smokeless powder, and I believe they used the same 757 Mauser cartridge. These things are expensive, by the way. Part of the reason why I'm not going to be making a ton of these videos, ammunition is expensive. So they had two different versions of these. There were the long rifle, which you see here, which is the full length, 49-inch, I believe, and then you had the short rifle or carbine sort of rifle, which were more used for the police, I believe. Like I mentioned, these were made in Germany for Brazil. They were made in either Berlin or Oberndorf, I believe I'm saying that correctly, by DWM. And I mean, you'll see a lot of places say about these are some of the nicest made Gewehrs you can find. They're just fantastically made because they're still made in Germany, so you have that very nice quality. I've also seen in the source that I'll leave linked down below that some of these were made in Brazil later, starting in 1916, out of German-made components. So I'm not sure if they were just assembled there, the parts sent over and assembled, or if there were any parts that were made by Brazil. It seems like they were just assembled, so most likely it was just parts sent over. They bolted them all together, essentially. All in all, though, these rifles were very, very popular with the Brazilians, with one Brazilian officer actually going to say, this is from a Sergeant Durval, I hope I'm saying that correctly, "The rifle Mauser 1908 is a Brazilian soldier's soul. It is all that keeps him alive in combat." And considering the fact that these rifles were in use up until, I believe, into the 50s or maybe even the 60s, and I think they are still used in small quantities for ceremonial rifles like marching rifles and stuff like that. I could be wrong. It's very clear though that these were very well liked by the Brazilians, and after shooting it a bit, I can see why. It's a very, very nice rifle to shoot. The recoil is manageable. Even after over 100 years of this rifle going through different hands, I was still able to nail a shot on a soda can from probably around 150 meters because I was at the first range marker on my sight, and first shot, bang. So this thing is still deadly accurate even after all this time. So you can tell these rifles were made well, and there's no denying that this is a very, very nice service rifle, and I'm sure they were happy to have them. These rifles did see combat in the Contestado Wars as well as against different groups of bandits. So they weren't just ornamental pieces, that's for sure. As I mentioned earlier, this rifle would take the 7x57mm Mauser cartridge and fed by stripper clip, as with pretty much any service rifle at that time period, and would have a bayonet on the front. This one is a Brazilian bayonet, but it is so dull that you could not cut paper with it if you tried. So maybe I'll sharpen it at some point, but not really much use in that because I don't plan to do any bayonet charges anytime soon. The sling here is just a generic sling that I found. I just wanted to be able to carry this thing around easier. There are some original slings on the market, but they're in very rough shape, and it just didn't seem worth the price that some people were trying to charge for them. But yeah, that's about it for the history portion of this. Like I mentioned, I'll probably do a full-length video covering all the different rifles because there is some very interesting stuff. Oh, one last thing to mention, and I'll mention it way more in that future video. But this rifle was also later rechambered, some of them, not mine in particular, but many of them were rechambered later in 30-06 following World War II. And the Brazilians very much liked 30-06 because pretty much all their rifles up until the FAL used 30-06. That's about it for the history. So anyways, on to my bit of lesson about what to watch out for when you're buying your own rifle. Let's say maybe you want one of these. And this is something that I missed, and I probably paid more than I needed to for this rifle, but I don't really care because it's just a very nice rifle to shoot. And honestly, I don't think I paid that much more than it's worth. But I just want to point it out because it's something that some of you could easily mistake if you're new to gun buying, and it's something that I don't really see mentioned very often in videos talking about rifles and stuff like that, so just something to watch out for. So like I said, it's not something you would notice at first glance, but because this is a very nice looking rifle, but if you notice, this is all shiny white steel. It should not be like that. I don't know about the bolt specifically for this rifle, but this whole portion of the receiver here should all be blued, and you can tell mine has been polished. Luckily, or thankfully I should say, the crest here is still visible, and most of the markings are, but if you look on the bottom on the floor plate, this has completely been polished down to the point where it's almost taken the numbers off. Thankfully, this is a mostly matching numbers rifle. There's a few pieces and parts that aren't original, and I don't know about the stock because this has also been polished. You can tell the markings there are basically gone, which is very unfortunate because it damages the value of the rifle, but that's not really a big concern to me. But that's just something I figured is worth mentioning. So if you ever are looking at a rifle like this and you notice something like that, where it's been polished down or the bluing is missing for some reason, and you always want to look for matching numbers, obviously. But yeah, just watch out for that, because this rifle looks good, it shoots good, but its value has tanked a little bit because of those differences. Another thing in regards to the bayonet, and I don't know if this was this must have been the previous owner who did this. For whatever reason, the bayonet lug on the end of this, which I'll try to move the camera in to show you guys. The bayonet lug on the end of this, when I originally got it, so it's supposed to fit on something like that. But the original bayonet lug that this thing came with did not fit this bayonet. This is the correct bayonet for this rifle, but for some reason, I'm pretty sure they had gotten parts from like a Car 98 or something and just slapped it on the end. I mean, granted, the band and everything, it's all the same size, so it fit, but when I went to fit the bayonet, it was like the ring was sticking off like here or something ridiculous. So yeah, just another thing to watch out for. This was only like 20 bucks or something to get those replacement parts so I could mount the bayonet. But it's just one of those things where it's like, why would they do it to begin with? Because like I said, the parts weren't expensive, but I don't know. Just something to watch out for, and I figured I would mention it in case any of you are looking at getting into collecting any firearms yourself. And if you are, a Mauser rifle like this is definitely somewhere to start. So would definitely recommend getting one of these if it's the sort of thing that you're interested in. But that's enough of me talking. I'm sure you want to see the gun in action, so I'll shut up and you guys can see some footage of me taking this out on the range. That'll be it for me today. If you liked the video, be sure to like it and enjoy. Let's see, am I in the frame? Oh wow, I am. Look at that. I'm almost professional. All right, so here is just about my first impression with firing this model 1908 Mauser. Fired like one shot before because I can't really shoot too much in my backyard. So, load up a stripper clip, if it fits. There we go. And put on some ears so I don't deafen myself, and we'll put a few shots downrange and see how good of a shot I am with this. See how accurate it is. All right, ready when you are.
Yeah, give me one. Go for it. Me.
Feels good.
Very sick.
All right. Now let's see what, not cameraman, but property man Caleb thinks.
Property owner. That's very satisfying. Yeah, we're good.
All right, so that's about as far as we're shooting. See the targets out there. How far about is that?
That's a really good question. I've never measured it out.
I don't know. I'd say maybe 200 meters, 150 meters.
I'll just say 100.
100, something like that. Let me know in the comments what you estimate. Let's go see who was more accurate.
2.
So I would say for a over 100-year-old rifle, that's not bad. Mine here on the right got all 5. Not a terrible group. I'm by no means a great shot. And Caleb, first time firing one of these. That's 3 on target with 1 flyer up on the left and the other, who knows where, it's gone.
Somewhere. Hit him in the dome piece.
So yeah, very nice rifle, very satisfying to fire. I'll have to do some more shooting when I have the chance, but
10 out of 10.
A lot of money for that ammo, so I gotta find it cheaper.